Hello, home bosses. Today we're talking about a topic that I've seen on a lot of other channels, and that is using Canva for Amazon KDP. And I think there are some valid concerns, but I've also seen so much misinformation around this that I thought I'd make a video for you to clear a few things up and to make it easier for you to decide whether to use Canva or a different tool. I personally use Canva for most of my low content books, but there are a few things you need to bear in mind. So in this video, I'll explain why I think Canva is a brilliant design tool, how I avoid copyright and licensing risks, and what alternatives you can use if you prefer a bit more control. So let's get into it. The first thing to understand is that Canva is first and foremost a design tool. It's not a stock image site. That's where many KDP creators go wrong. People often treat Canva like a library of ready-to-sell images or templates, but Canva's main strength is in designing layout, typography, composition, not in providing guaranteed copyright-safe artwork. So I've seen a lot of you using Canva for the images, for the elements, and for designing the actual interior of the book. And that is not how I use it. I use it as a design tool. And then I get my images from other sites like Etsy, Creative Fabrica, or similar sites. So if you're creating notebooks, children's books, or puzzle books, it's fine to design your pages in Canva, but for the images, illustrations, and elements, you really want to know exactly where they came from. And that's why I personally use other sites for my images. And you can always get the commercial licenses from places like Creative Fabrica, Etsy, or other stock libraries. And then I bring everything into Canva to design and format my pages. And here's why it gets tricky. Canva's terms of use can be a bit confusing, and honestly, they're constantly evolving. On one page, it says that you can use their templates for digital and physical products if you modify them, but then elsewhere you'll find notes saying certain content like Disney, brands, or pro elements is not allowed for commercial use. So which is it? That's the problem. It's not always very clear. And if someone uploads copyrighted content to Canva, even accidentally, and you use it in your book, you're the one who's legally responsible, not Canva. And that's why some creators have received copyright claims, even though the element came directly from Canva's library. So my rule of thumb is simple. Use Canva for your own original designs and avoid using Canva's templates or pre-made graphics as is. And if you're ever unsure, replace those graphics with something you've sourced from a licensed stock site or your own illustrations. And the second issue is more technical. Canva isn't designed for publishing. It's missing things like KDP's exact bleed and spine measurements. If you're creating covers, you'll need to use Amazon's cover calculator to get the correct dimensions, then set up your Canva file using those numbers manually. It works, and I've done it for years, but it's not as precise or efficient as tools built for book publishing. If you want something that handles all of this automatically, you could use tools like Affinity Publisher, Adobe InDesign, or Tangent Templates, or BookBold if you're focusing on low-content interiors. Those are really good alternatives, and out of all of those, the most beginner-friendly ones are definitely Tangent Templates and BookBold. And I will leave a link below this video for BookBold and Tangent Templates. And I'm not an affiliate for Tangent. I am an affiliate for BookBold. And I'm also not an affiliate for Canva. So it is completely up to you. I recommend any of those. And the one I use the most is Canva in conjunction with Tangent templates. I've even created my first books in PowerPoint. So there are just so many alternatives if you want to use them. They're all design tools. Where you get your images and your elements from, that is a completely different matter. And you should always ensure that you've got the correct license for your images. So it doesn't matter what design tool you use, that's just the design tool. So if people say you can't use Canva for KDP, that's not correct. You can use Canva. The problem comes when people are using the images or the elements and they haven't got the correct license for that. I've also heard people say that Amazon requires you to have the copyright for your images, and if you're using Canva, you haven't got the copyright. Again, that is nonsense, because Amazon is not asking you if you hold the copyright for your images. If we had to have the copyright for each image, we wouldn't be able to publish children's books that have been illustrated by illustrators, because they keep their copyright to their own illustrations. What we do need to have is the correct license, and there is a big difference in that. It's not the copyright, it's the correct license that we need. I think the problem with that is, or what people are misunderstanding here, is that there is a question that Amazon asks you when you are uploading your manuscript. They ask you to tick a box that says that you hold the copyright. And what they're really asking is if you hold the copyright for your book. And yes, if you have designed your book, you hold the copyright for your book. So you can tick the box and say that this is your copyright, that you hold the copyright for this book. And that is because people can publish public domain books. That means they don't hold the copyright because they're in the public domain. And that's why Amazon asks that question. It's nothing to do with the images that you use. It's to do with whether you hold the copyright for your book. And if you have designed your book, it doesn't matter whether you use images from somebody else, as long as you have the correct licenses for those images, you hold the copyright for your book. And I think that is where people were getting confused. And I hope that clears it up for you. As long as you have the correct licenses for your images, then you're absolutely fine. So how do I use Canva safely for my books? Here's my simple workflow. First of all, source images elsewhere. I buy or download from reputable sites that provide commercial rights, things like Creative Fabrica, Publishers Vault, or Stock Libraries, or Etsy. I find that Etsy is a really good source because you can actually talk to the designers, and that can also be the case with Creative Fabrica. You can contact the designers, and if you have any questions about the license, they can then answer you directly. So those are really good sites to have, and I will leave a link below the video. And then the second thing is you can design everything in Canva. So I use it for layout, typography, and visual flow. It's fast, intuitive, and it's easy to make beautiful pages. Just use your own images for it and not the ones that Canva provides. And the third point is to export and double check. I always check margins, trim sizes, and bleeds using Amazon's template before uploading. Or if you have got Tangent templates, which is what I have, I use that to create my trim sizes, and I create a template with that. I really recommend Tangent templates because that has been a lifesaver for me, and I've never had a book rejected for the wrong trim size or anything like that. It's always spot on when I use Tangent templates. And I think you get the same sort of thing with BookBolt as well, because Tangent templates and BookBolt have been designed for low-content book publishers. And if you prefer to stay completely within one program, there are other great design tools too. So you can use Affinity Publisher, which I think is a one-time payment. But I think they're switching to a subscription model now, so you'll have to check that out. There's also Adobe InDesign, which is an industry standard, but it's a little bit more expensive. And like I said, you can use PowerPoint. Yes, really, it's great for simple interiors. And I used that at the beginning when I first started publishing on Amazon KDP. Before I even knew about Canva, I made my first books in PowerPoint. So there are a few alternatives to Canva out there. And Canva also offers AI tools now, so image generation, writing, and more. And while it is fun to experiment with AI ownership laws are still very unclear, and Canva's own terms say you might not own the copyright to AI generated images. And what they mean by that is you probably don't have the licenses. So I'm not too sure about that. And until that is a little bit clearer, I try not to use Canva's AI. So if you plan to sell your work on Amazon or Etsy, I would avoid using AI generated graphics unless you've created them elsewhere, like on Midjourney. I do create a lot of images on Midjourney and on Ideogram, and I know their licensing status. So those tools are great to use for Amazon KDP as long as you declare that you've used AI when you upload your book. But Amazon is absolutely fine with it. I know there are a lot of people saying that AI is not good for Amazon because Amazon doesn't like it. That's all nonsense. Amazon doesn't dislike AI. It just wants you to declare that you have used it, and then it's fine. So there are definitely lots of alternatives for you to use instead of Canva. But like I said, I use Canva. I've used it all the time. I still use it for my low content books. For written books, I find that Canva is not ideal because if there's a lot of text, you're better off using something like Atticus, which is what I use, which is from Kindlepreneur, the same people that make Publisher Rocket. And I find it really easy to use, but there are also lots of other tools that you can use for written books, and you can even format your books in Word or in Google Documents. So there's a lot of alternatives. Canva's not the only tool you can use, but I hope that this has made it a little bit clearer so that you don't think that you can't use Canva, because you absolutely can. So here's my take. Canva is a fantastic tool for designing, but it's not a stock photo library. Used wisely, it can absolutely be part of your KDP publishing toolkit. Just make sure you're in control of every image and asset you use. And that is valid for any design tool that you use, not just Canva. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Actually, most of my viewers aren't subscribed, so I would be really grateful if you did, as liking and subscribing really helps support this channel so I can bring you more videos like this. And let me know in the comments, do you use Canva for your KDP books? I'd love to hear your experiences, whether they're good or bad. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching The Home Boss, where ideas turn to gold. Every page, every story, another dream unfolds. The Home Boss, create and process.